Alright folks, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a coil pot. So let me just focus you here. This is a coil pot that I made previously as an example for my students. You can see the side here. It's somewhat shallow. Here's the base. And in previous years we have made these pots that cannot be put in the oven. But this year we're going to make these coil pots and they will be oven safe. So you will be able to cook your food, put your food in here and put it in the oven. As always, our ceramics can also always be put in the microwave or the dishwasher. I have another example. This is a student piece that was made last year. You can see how beautiful the shape, the handles, and then the decorative detail on the inside can be. We're going to start with grogged clay. That means it has little particles in it that will support thermal expansion. Thermal expansion is when your plate or serving dish, whatever you put in the oven, expands and contracts due to the heat that's happening in the oven. So to prep our slab, as we always do, we're going to go one direction, cleaning off your rib, and another direction. You don't want to press too hard. You don't want to make it thinner than it already is. Then we're going to flip this and do the other side as well. One direction and the other direction. You will notice that I'm using the regular yellow sponge to clean my rib off, but when I start using the sponge on my clay piece, I will switch to this sponge. This is a mud tool sponge, and this is the sponge that we will be using for grogged clay. If you use a regular yellow sponge on grog clay, you will find that all the grog particles come up to the surface and it feels very strange and it's very difficult to work with. So I'm only using this yellow sponge to clean off my rib right now. You guys have the options of 3 sizes. Here are 2 sizes that you can use for your base. You can also use the 9.5-inch circle. Do not use the smaller side, we're using the larger side. So I think since I have an oval already, I'm going to go ahead and make the circle. When you cut this, put it all the way to the edge so that you can have all of this space left over to save the material and build your walls. I'm just looking right now for a knife so that I can cut my form out. You want to hold on to your mold and just cut around. There we go. Keep coming off of there. You just want to glide along. Make an end cut, glide along. There will be many stages to this piece, so you kind of have to be patient with the shape and the form. All right. As soon as you cut this clay off, it's really important that you put it in a bag and spray it with water. You really want to keep this clay nice and soft because you're going to be making coils with it, so you don't want it to dry out. I'm going to get my bag. Cut this off, and I'm going to put this in here. I'm not going to wrinkle it up because it makes it harder to use. So I'm leaving it as flat as possible, and I'm taking my water bottle and I'm spraying 1, 2, 3, closing it up really, really well because this clay needs to remain soft. I now have my circle, and I'm going to go ahead and start smoothing my edges. So here's my water. Oops, I left some of my clay out. There it goes. I've got my grogged sponge that says mud tools on it, and I'm going to start smoothing it. I can do it with a sponge, or I can just do it with my hands, my fingers, sweating my fingers down. Either way, we're going to be smoothing this piece a lot. I often, when I do this project, I will work on a banding wheel because banding wheels are really nice. They turn, and so you can really see what you're doing. Once you cut this shape out, please move your clay to a slab mat or a small board. All right, my base is prepared, and I'm going to go ahead and I've got some glaze here on my board. I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to begin rolling my coils. My coils will start. This clay is really very dry. If your clay is this dry, please don't use it. You guys can get fresher clay from the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and start the coil in my hands. I'll move this over so you guys can see a little easier what I'm doing. And I'm going to start rolling my coils. Remember that when you roll a coil, you're only putting pressure when you roll outward. Only put pressure when you roll out. I've got my fingers open and I'm moving my hands back and forth because I want this coil to be even in thickness. If you're working on a board because you're sitting at one of the wheels, then you're going to want to make sure you've put water on your board first before you roll your coils, just so you keep these coils kind of moist and they don't start drying out on you. Coils dry pretty quickly, so just giving you guys the heads up on that. Notice I'm moving my hands around and I've got my fingers open so that I am really trying to get this coil even thickness. All right, so here we go. There's my coil, and I'm going to come back to my base. Actually, I think I'm going to roll a couple of coils. So I'm going to take this other piece out of my bag. I'm going to put this coil in my bag so that it doesn't get dried out. Remember, I just said that coils dry out really quickly. And I'm going to start making another coil because I'm pretty sure that first coil that I made is not going to go completely around my base. If your coil starts to get flat, just stand it up, tap it, and then continue rolling. I want my coils to be fairly even, so I'm going to roll this out as even as I can, and then I'm going to measure it with my other coil that I just finished rolling. All right, so there's a couple of coils. I'm going to set it down next to this one. It's not quite there yet. So I think that's pretty good. So pretty even coils right there. All right. I can curl these around, set them in my bag, spray. Every time I open this bag, I'm spraying, so I really don't want my clay to dry out. And I'm going to begin. Remember, we're using the Mud Tools sponge, right? Mud Tool sponge. And I'm going to start by scoring my edge of my base, and I'm scoring right to the edge. There's going to be a lot of smoothing happening later, so make sure that you are going deep enough when you score. And now I'm going to take my coil. I'm going to flatten it. Oh, you're out of the screen, sorry. I'm going to flatten it a little. Not a lot, just a little. And then I stand it up. I'm going to stand it up and I'm going to score the very top. There we go. Normally when you work with coils, you cut the very end off. So I'm going to cut the very ends off. There you go. Put that in my bag. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my slip. I'm going to add my slip to my base. and I'm going to add the slip to the coil itself. Go. You do not need a ton of water. You just need to wet it enough that it's going to grasp and it's going to stay stuck together. So of course we're going to go score to edge to score to edge, and I'm going to feel around making sure that I'm hitting my edge. This is very common to not be able to go around the whole thing. See that? So I'm going to need another coil. And please make sure that when you're cutting your coils, folks, this is still a little on the thick side. I'm just making it a little skinnier, and I'm going to cut this out there, flatten it, cut the edges off. All right, and I'm going to score it. When you are attaching, when you need to fill the spot, what you need to do, folks, I'm going to do it on this side so the side camera can see it a little easier. There we go. I'm going to overlap. So I've added my slip. I'm going to overlap, take my knife, and cut at a diagonal through both coils. Don't cut through your base. Be careful. There's one. There's the other side. And now I can score the ends and connect. And this should fit. Pushing down so that it supports and lays on the base. And now all of these pieces are going to go in my bag. Don't forget to spray. Okay. I'm going to start working this coil, and I'm going to switch actually to, well, I'm going to show you this first. I'm going to take this tool right here that's got that little curve right there, and I'm going to hold it on the outside, and I'm going to start coming down and connecting that first coil to my base. I want to go all the way around, connecting, just pushing down a little bit. The base is the only time that we're going to use this tool, really, because the rest of the coils are going to be smoothed in with just my hands. It should be soft enough to be able to smooth in with my hands. So I'm going to go all the way around. That's connected nicely. Good. And then the exterior, and I'm going to take my rib, hold it, and smooth. You don't want super thick corners, folks, so make sure that you are pushing this and smoothing it so you don't have a super thick corner. I'm going to switch cameras for a minute because I want you to see the other side. So bear with me here, folks. There we go. And a focus. All right, so you can see that right out here is not connected still, right? So I can take my rib and I can begin, and I can start pushing down. This works really well, you guys, with a banding wheel. If you put this up on a banding wheel, so see, I'm connecting this and then I'm just going to smooth. If you can just take your rib and go around and have it connect, that's great. But I really want to make sure that this coil is pushed down. I can also start pushing down with my finger. So let me turn this around and show you what I mean. I'm pushing down with my finger all the way around. And oftentimes this is the best way to do it. This is the way we're going to connect all the other coils using our finger. And then smoothing. So I'm turning this around just so you can see it. And I'm showing you how I'm using my finger to push down. There we go. And then we'll do some smoothing with the rib. Making sure that you're taking the clay off the rib with a sponge. All right, so I'm going to keep smoothing this and then we'll come back.